finger that's pulling this trigger.
You messed with the wrong family.
The new Tomb Raider movie is a pretty much direct adaptation of the 2013 video game, but does it do it justice? I will tell you, but first, please subscribe to GameSpot Universe. We have a lot more videos coming up, including the spoiler talk for this movie. Also, we asked Alicia Vikander your Twitter questions. Your questions. You're famous. That video is also up now, so check it out. Tomb Raider is a pretty good action movie, and it is a better than average adaptation of a video game, which, yeah, granted, that is a low bar, but I think it does a really good job paying tribute to the 2013 game. There's also a couple of things that really set it apart. First and foremost among them is that Alicia Vikander is fantastic as Lara Croft. She's super physical, she has incredible emotional range, she's an Oscar-winning actress, and I think that she's the version of the character that I've connected with the most. And you're probably wondering how she compares to the Angelina Jolie version. I personally prefer this version of Lara Croft. I prefer Alicia. I don't hate those movies by any means, but they kind of feel like they're from a different time. And just like the 2013 video game, this movie feels like it is contemporary and modern and for the present day. On top of that, this movie is also surprisingly grounded. It would kind of be a spoiler to say exactly how. That is what the spoiler talk video is for, and that's coming. But for now, I will say that there's a thing that, like, if you look at this subgenre of archaeological adventure movies and games, Uncharted, Indiana Jones, and of course Tomb Raider, they all kind of do one thing. They always fall back on one thing, and this movie doesn't do that. There's kind of a twist toward the end, and it's actually really refreshing, and I was pleasantly surprised. Much like the game it's based on, this version of Tomb Raider follows a Lara Croft who's younger, she's less experienced, she's not yet like the skilled, deadly adventurer that we're all used to. In the movie, she lives in London, and her dad has been missing for several years, and she's kind of living like impoverished because she refuses to sign the papers that would give her control of the business, control of the wealth, because she's hoping that her dad is still out there somewhere. So instead, she works as a bicycle courier, and she trains in MMA, which makes for some really good early action where her abs just are like insane, like it's crazy, like a like a washboard. Like I can't even imagine. The movie overall does a really good job of making all these action scenes that should seem really implausible and unrealistic, kind of feel like they maybe could happen simply because Alicia looks so jacked. The amount of training that she put into preparing for this role every day, we've heard a lot about it. We've also seen a lot of it. Can we do that clip of like her doing push-ups?
I will be, yes sir.
Holy shit. So when Lara gets some new clues about where her dad has been all this time, she sells what little she has and she sets off on the adventure. She meets Lu Ren, who's kind of like a drunken sailor adventurer type guy. He's a little bit underused, but he's still awesome. And that's it. They get to the island where her dad has been this whole time, and Walton Goggins is there, and he's a bad guy, and that's the story.
Lara, there was more to my life than boardrooms and business deals.
I kind of already mentioned it before, but one of my favorite things about this movie is how weirdly grounded it feels in reality. And one aspect that helps a lot there is that Lara Croft is basically a skeptic in this movie. She uncovers all of her dad's research, and he's become weirdly obsessed with like this Japanese death queen goddess named Himiko. And she basically thinks that he's gone insane. So she doesn't go after him and follow in his footsteps to stop Himiko, which is what he wants. She just wants to rescue him, and it helps keep us grounded in what could become like a very weird supernatural story. That groundedness also comes across in a lot of the action scenes, which work partially because she's so jacked that it makes it believable. But those are also really cool because they do stretch plausibility, and a lot of the time you're watching the movie, and if you played the game from 2013, it's like, oh, I remember that, cool. The movie does try to cram a little bit too much in. There's probably like one or two too many action scenes, or at least a couple that could have been cut down. There's also definitely one too many info dumps about Himiko, the Japanese death person, because the movie opens with like a voiceover from Lara Croft's dad telling us all the mythology. And then it goes to Lara, and then a little bit later she finds his research and then does the exact same thing. It gives us all the same information again. And you're like, I know it doesn't It doesn't make any sense. Also, besides Lara, a lot of the characters aren't very well fleshed out, especially Vogel, who is the bad guy from the game, played by Walton Goggins. They do a little bit to try to flesh him out. He talks about like his family. He wants to get off the island and see his family, but that kind of winds up just being a throwaway line, not really having an effect on it. He's also like pretty creepy with Lara, and there was that controversy with the game, whether there was a scene where she was being threatened with like sexual violence. The movie kind of doesn't do that, but at the same time, the threat of violence against a woman when it's like a bunch of beefy dudes like hunting her through the jungle is kind of always there. Some people might be bothered by that, others would just say that's realistic. So it's gonna vary. One other thing that's just kind of weird, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but the movie is like really weirdly similar to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is a movie that I personally love. Her dad goes missing and she has to use his research to track him down, and in doing so, she inadvertently gives that research directly to their enemies, who then use it to find like this mythical thing, and then she has to team up with them briefly and use the research to pass 3 trials to get to the thing to save her dad's life. Yeah, it's the plot of The Last Crusade. It's weird. My only other complaint, especially if you compare Tomb Raider to Indiana Jones, which is inevitable, is that this movie doesn't really have any like iconic theme music. She does a lot of awesome like fist pumpy stuff, and afterward you kind of want to hear like dun da da da, and she just doesn't have anything like that, and I think the movie kind of suffers for it. I don't want Vikander to play Indiana Jones. I don't think that the two need to be compared really, except for the plot, which is exactly the same. Vikander is way too jacked anyway. She would probably kick his ass. Indiana Jones is a little bit over the hill, and Vikander is like in her prime, like, you know what I mean? I think Lara Croft in general needs some iconic theme music. Like, what is Lara Croft's theme music? We know what Mario's music is. We know what Indiana Jones music is, Star Wars, all these things that are great because of the music, and Tomb Raider has never had a theme song. Tomb Raider is overall a great game adaptation. It's a decent action movie on its own, and it's elevated by a bunch of smart story choices, plus a fantastic performance from Alicia Vikander, who you will completely fall in love with as Lara Croft. Here's hoping she's down for a sequel. Thanks for watching, guys. Let us know in the comments or hit me up on Twitter at RogueCheddar what your favorite video game adaptations are. Mine personally is the first Resident Evil with Milla Jovovich. I think that shit doesn't get enough credit. Also, let me know if you think Alicia Vikander could kick my ass. You don't know, I could be super jacked under this shirt. You don't know. I'm not.